Viva el Caribe, 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 viva el Caribe. Aba we the Cancun, no Aba festival, unity wakata hena, no Aba festival. I am a Mexican, I'm a Jamaican, just glory to God of the.
Hello. I'm so delighted to see you all. And I'm happy you invited me to do this with you. And how are you? How are you? You see, this thing about manners is a serious business, you know. It is not to be taken lightly. Some people don't know why them have manners. Them just have it. Because it's there. Them come in like this man who, when you ask him, and why did you climb Mount Everest? Him said, because it was there. Well, it's just so some people stay with manners. It come in them genes. It's part of the DNA. Them inherit it from them mother and sometimes from them father. It's there. No matter what condition you find them in, and you say, how are you? Here comes the lightning reflex action. Fine, thank you. This lady says just as well. Or a reflex question deserves a reflex answer. Because some people don't even know what them is asking you. Them just have manners. Because it's there. It's cocktail party conversation. My, you look wonderful. And how are you? Then if them can see what them asking for. Sometimes you really don't want to have any conversation with those kinds of people. But after all the things your mother tell you about have manners, you can't just tell them, get out and go about your business. You have manners. Because it's there. You take out the smile. Fine, thank you. Or some people don't really care how you is. Except you collapse and start tell them how in these COVID times I'm falling apart. Lord, I'm such a mess. I'm so depressed. Is that them want to hear? So them can come and porting you. Make you into a topic. So people get paid to go and do research on. Make you into something politicians can campaign about. Make you into a sin so the righteous can quote you into Lamentations. One of them made the mistake of asking Miss Lady, and what is the world doing to you these days? You should have been there to see how Miss Lady sweetly smiled and politely said, what is the world doing to me these days? Is what am I doing to the world is the better question. For you see me here? I am still here. I am a victory. Some people don't like to hear that, you know. But I am one idea them can't kill. I am a victory. This old granny, I'm giving birth. You think me did done to some natty head picnic on a blanket of ice, green and gold. For you know how much blood shed. So we could wear those colors. I'm going to christen them. I'm going to christen them. I'm going to christen them to Ogun. And I'm going to teach them how to dance to Shango. I'm going to feed them out of calabash. I'm going to call them resistance. And I'm going to teach them how to say, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy Sharp, and Marcus, Marcus Garvey. And when nighttime comes, I'm going to sing them. I'm going to sing them. I'm going to sing them a Lumumba. And then I'm going to take them up into the mountain. And I'm going to show them how to play worry or something like that. And when school come off lockdown, I'm going to pack up them lunch kit with memories that I am still alive. I'm going to wrap them sandwich into a little piece of kente. I am a victory. Did Mr. Man now get a chance to say, hello, I didn't ask you all of that. Where did that come from? But Miss Lady not finished. She said, I'm going to give them a book. I'm going to give them a book. About the size God would have used. Full of things in our image and likeness. Bantu nuts, ebony carvings, and ivory. Mr. Man interrupt again to say, where all of that come from? Well, you should have been there to see how Miss Lady sweetly smiled and politely said, well, let us just say it was there. Dead. Me not dead yet, dead, me not dead. Me not dead yet, fly can follow me, bamba. Me not dead. Me not dead yet, pass and pray for me, bamba. Me not dead. Me not dead yet, dead, me not dead. My name is Amina Blackwood Meeks. I work in the oral tradition. My thesis has a long title that sometimes I myself have a difficulty remembering it. Anyway, I think it is the oral tradition, displacement, adjustment, replacement, storytelling as a holistic tool for development. I think this research chose me. I try to get out of the way of what I do so that it will speak for itself. But it is an outcome or an outgrowth of the way I was raised by parents who were always telling stories before we knew that they were not just having conversations, that it had a name, and now we call it IKS, Indigenous Knowledge Systems. So them come from the country. You might want to say the rural areas. And rural life raises us in a different way, in the way we interact with the environment, and in the way in which that environment is always providing us with stories, as opposed to narratives, but stories that dwell there. And so I carried this in my being for a long time, and the more I carried it, the more it took on significance. And one of the, to me, the greatest incident of significance was when I lived and worked in Antigua, and I had a children's group called Child's Play. And that group was designed to use the techniques of theater to raise self-esteem. Eventually, we started to look at Anansi's stories. And there was this young man in the group at the time. He was 8, Adekunle. Adekunle Oshoba was born in Nigeria to an Antiguan mother and a Nigerian father who at the time I met Adekunle had not yet seen the Caribbean except perhaps on the map. And one day Adekunle told the group a story that his Nigerian father told him in Nigeria, that my Jamaican father had told me in Jamaica when I was maybe his age. And I was astounded as to how one story would have survived the transatlantic terrible encounter and would still be told on both sides of that journey. So that piqued my interest, and I carried it in my head and in my heart. And then Antigua is a wonderful place with wonderful proverbs. For example, when you do something unsavory, antisocial, and they want to say time longer than rope, they say, you go on, man, moon a run till deer catch him. Now that speaks for itself, moon a run till deer catch him. Until one day, I found a story from the fun people of Dahomey about why it is that the sun is always chasing the moon. And it ended with a version of moon a run till deer catch him. And I started to wonder how many of these things we say as proverbial truisms, which in fact are found in our stories. So of course I begin to find some of them. By this time I'm an established storyteller, and I'm going around the region and I'm telling stories. And in Dominica, there is a set of stories. You know, we have Big Boy's story, and Nancy's story, Newsie's story, Chinaman, Black Man's story, them categories of stories. And in Dominica, they have a category of stories called Kakoi. Now, my ears hear it the Kakai way, as in English, Kakai, not quite right, you know. And then I found out they weren't saying Kakai at all. Maybe they still believe they're saying Kakai, but they're saying Koi, Koi. It's a Koi story, as in the Koi people from South Africa. And when I did my research eventually in South Africa, I was able to locate some of the stories I heard in Dominica among the Koi people. So it was a journey. It was a journey of discovery. And by the time I decided that I wanted to write a PhD, along with Professor Rex Netleford, who opened this door for us to write down what we know from our perspective for our children, in the certainty that those who teach you colonize your mind. So you might as well put into your mind what you want your children to learn. By the time I decided that I wanted to become a part of the program at the Institute of Cultural Studies, and there was this opportunity to craft what I wanted to research, what else could it have been but storytelling? And so coming from Adekunle, I developed this interest in what was lost across the Atlantic, what remained in terms of what was lost, what did we lose as individuals, as people, as a nation, as a race, with what did we replace it? How did we adjust? And what is there in it now that we can learn for this journey that we're on? And now we're on this journey of Vision 2030, which tells us about building an authentic and transformative culture. And you look at Anansi, and you look at our stories, and when I do, I see cultural reparation. I see the way in which the Europeans did a really terrible job on Anansi. I see that the image of Anansi needs to be repaired in the way we need to repair what we have learned to language about ourselves, which is not always positive, to put it mildly. And what would happen to us if we could reclaim Anansi and all our cultural heritage, and if in the reclamation of Anansi we could open a pathway, a doorway, a gateway to understanding our stories. The research process was, aspects of it were very frightening. You know, when you're little and you hear about people up at university with big head, you know, say your head not so big. But I think we all encounter that when we attempt new things. There were times when I wondered, Amina, you know what you're really doing? Especially when I did the chapter on memory and realized the psychological and psychiatric components of memory that I had to understand before I could enter into why we forget. Is forgetting something that can be produced? I made it frighten myself. So I had a number of moments when I frightened myself. I frightened myself when, after my first class, Dr. Stanley Nair said to me, I recommend that you read, and she gave me a wonderful list of things to read. So I not read none. Because the first thing I want to do is recover as much as I can what I was raised on and how my parents valued stories and what kinds of stories they told us and how we later on use that story. If I don't recover this, I can't go into somebody else's head to understand how they define and understand stories and storytelling. And then me say, Amina, you're an idiot. You don't see somebody, I try help you. Yeah, I talk about not until you have recovered. And so in that process of recovery, then I discovered my primary methodology, which is autoethnographic. And I'm glad that I did that. There are other things. There are the interviews and the historicity and all of those fabulous things. But my primary thing was to go inside myself. And in going inside myself, I remembered so many wonderful things. Nights with my mother and my father and my sister and my brothers. And then later, once I had done that for myself, I could then say to my sister, you remember this? And if it's no, it's no. And if it's yes, then I would ask her, how do you remember it? And that was part of the process. Another part of the process was just to go to old people and ask them things. And then I learned that you can't always ask them things the way we are taught to develop our questionnaires and so on and so forth. Because if you say to, well, in my case, the average senior citizen, you can tell me a story about A, B, and C, you're going to get, no, I don't know any story. That story. But if you say, what a big breadfruit tree, you hear them. Remember the time when Obadiah planted that breadfruit tree, you know. And 3 hours later, this person who said he didn't know any story will still be telling you stories. So I learned also to value how to approach our senior citizens, because once you value them, then there is no end to what they will share with you about what you're doing. Life after the PhD was a huge adjustment. I remember Dr. Leakim Samaj saying to me one day, prepare for the time when you are finished. Prepare for the time when we finished. I mean, not finish. But you know what he was talking about? Me still wake up 2 o'clock in the morning and I have nothing to write. So that was huge advice. When you finish, there is time that you have on your hands, but you have to plan for it. What you're going to do with it. You're going to sleep, you're going to read, okay. So that's useful advice. So that happened to me after the PhD. Had to find things to do. But life after the PhD was pretty much in a real way like life before the PhD. because before the PhD, I had discovered the value and the power of storytelling, and I was using storytelling in the classroom where I teach, in workshops, in performances. And so I gained a great deal more confidence in doing that. I remember Dr. Erna Brodber said to me, Amina, what you want to do when you finish this PhD? Because she thought I would stop reading now. She said, you're reading too much things. But guess what? I love to read. And much of the stuff that I put in my PhD, I didn't read it for the PhD, you know. Me read it for a long time. And she had to say to me, no, you have to go back now and find which book you did read it into so you can properly quote it. So after she told me, no, stop read so much and just sit down and finish the thing, she then said to me, consider your PhD like a driver's license. Once you have it, you can drive anywhere you want to drive. So I've learned that I have the confidence of this driver's license, that I am not making up things, and I have the confidence that I can make up things and should make up things if I need to, because so much of our history as a people is not written down anywhere that we can access it. And then we have to put together what we hear, what old people said to us. We have to put that to help us fill in, not just fill in the gaps, but help us to understand why some things are not in the written information. So I've done that. I've managed to have a lot more confidence about my storytelling festival. Our storytelling festival, Anansi Soundsplash, is documented in the National Storytelling Archives of the United States of America as one of the greatest storytelling festivals today. And that was since 2012, when Margaret Reed MacDonald, an anthropologist who travels around the world collecting and analyzing stories, came to our storytelling festival and wrote up in that storytelling magazine, if you want to know how to run a storytelling festival, go to Jamaica to Anansi Soundsplash. Yes, so I have the confidence that we know what we're doing. And when we say our storytelling festival is not just about telling stories, but it should have a conference component, and these are some of the issues we want to discuss, then more and more and more, not only do I have the confidence to do that, but I see the impact on scholarship, on national development. We can look at our stories and we can say, but our stories contain the Sustainable Development Goals. If only we had the confidence to say, but we know how to do that, because our ancestors did do it, and Anansi did bring it in our head and in our stories. So I'm able to approach the many aspects of my work with the confidence of not just gaining the PhD, but with the confidence of the research and the information that doing the PhD allowed me to access. I want to say that writing a PhD centers me in the power of the collective. You know, I do many one-woman shows, and in theater we know that is a foolish thing to say, because there is no one-woman show. You see one person on the stage, but the lighting technician and the sound engineer and the person who looks after your costumes and clean up the theater, it's teamwork. Writing a PhD is teamwork. So all my advisors, all the people who give me casual advice or casual encouragement, you're not finished yet, you're not finished, are part of the team. A critical part of the team are those senior citizens, some of whom never finished primary school, but who carry so much of what we need to know in their heads, and who allowed us to sit with them and open a microphone and share with us what they know. And then sometimes we put it in words that them can't read or do understand. they are part of the team. I don't know if Dr. Stanley Nye would consider herself a part of my team, but she's a huge part of my team. We don't tell you already how she come give me a list of things to study after my first couple classes. But she casually said to me one day, Amina, you know, say you're supposed to go to South Africa. I said, go do it. And she said, there is a fellowship and this is the information. I think you should apply. Just so she gone about her business. And I applied, and lo and behold, I ended up in South Africa, where I could meet Credo Mutua, who passed last year, who is the Zulu shaman, the keeper of the stories, and so on and so forth. So there is a huge team that assists every single one of us to get to this level, and the responsibility now becomes, how do we give back to the wider world? I don't know how wide the world is. It could be a family, it could be your students, it could be the institution, it could be the whole country, Jamaica, the whole world. But there is a responsibility to give back some of this team support, which has allowed us to reach this level. So I want to say thanks to my team. And that's my story. I am Amina Blackwood Meeks. You know, sometimes I forget to say Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks, and somebody has to remind me. Yes, I am Amina Blackwood Meeks, still the child of Pearl and Johnny, and still very proud of what I've been able to accomplish, even though sometimes I forget to give it the academic salutations.
Viva el Caribe, 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 viva el Caribe. Aba we the Cancun, no Aba festival.